Marvel Rivals is here with 6v6 action, which is said to, well, rival Overwatch. Let's go over all of the launch characters and their abilities, breaking it down role by role. We'll start with the Vanguard and the Hulk. Hulk starts as Bruce Banner with a gamma ray gun and a gamma grenade that does damage and launches enemies upward. Hit the ultimate to Hulk out, and once in his Hulk form, you gain access to many more abilities. Hold the jump button to initiate Incredible Leap, which can be used to bring flying enemies to the ground, and punch away with his basic attack, Heavy Blow. Send out Gamma Ray Burst to pierce through enemies and deal damage, then use Indestructible Guard to shield Hulk and nearby allies. His Hulk Smash ultimate makes him even more monstrous, buffing his abilities, such as Radioactive Lockdown, which traps enemies in place and prevents their allies from using abilities on them for a short period. On to the Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange. He's got a nice list of abilities to help you tank damage and disrupt enemies. Daggers of Danak is his main projectile attack. Cloak of Levitation sends him into the air, allowing him to levitate for a short time. Maelstrom of Madness uses any dark magic stored within him and unleashes it to damage nearby enemies. Pull up his Shield of the Seraphim to block yourself and allies from attacks. Then open a portal with Pentagram of Farala. Get to locations easier, or even sneak up behind enemies to surprise them. Finally, his ultimate is the Eye of Agamotto. Separate enemies from their souls, leaving them helpless and open for attack. Next is Steve Rogers, none other than Captain America. He uses his fists and his shield to dish out some good hard freedom. Living Legend raises his shield to deflect projectiles and can also send them back to deal damage. Leading Dash allows him to sprint and can be followed by Fearless Leap to send him high in the air. Couple that with Super Soldier Slam to launch enemies up while dealing damage. Then start the onslaught with his basic attack, Sentinel Strike. After that is Liberty Rush, where he charges forward with his shield to deal damage, and then comes Vibranium Energy Saw, which launches his shield and ricochets off of enemies. Last up is his ultimate, Freedom Charge. You'll see him leave a trail of red, white, and blue that grants himself and allies following the path bonus health and movement buffs. Our next Vanguard is Groot. Let's start with his Spore Bomb. Toss an explosive spore that can deal direct damage and then splits into multiple smaller explosives. Vine Strike is his basic attack, where he sends out his arms in long vines with surprising range. Then he has some walls to place. Ironwood Wall gives bonus health if he's close to it, as nearby enemies take damage. Thornlash Wall can be placed, and if Groot remains close, the wall will attack nearby enemies that are targeted by the team. His ultimate is Strangling Prison. It pulls nearby enemies to its center and does chip damage to them as they are immobilized for easy eliminations. Another character who likes to say their own name is Venom. His Venom Swing allows him to move rapidly across the map, and from up in the air, he can use Frenzied Arrival to slam down on enemies and launch them upward. His basic attack is Dark Predation, where he uses his symbiote tentacles to strike. Symbiotic Resilience generates bonus health, and grants more depending on how low his regular health is at the time. Cellular Corrosion sends out tentacles to leash enemies to Venom, slowing them while connected, and Feast of the Abyss, his ultimate, sends him underground. The mutant Magneto is up now. Iron Volley is his basic projectile attack, and Mag Cannon is a secondary of that, which damages depending on his stash of iron rings on his back. Metallic Curtain generates a frontal shield that blocks all projectiles. The Metal and Iron Bulwark abilities generate a shield around an ally or himself respectively. And his ultimate is Meteor M. Draw in matter while in the air to launch it for a massive area of effect damage. The God of Thunder Thor is here. Use Storm Surge to spin Mjolnir and launch forward to knock back enemies. Follow it up with Hammer Throw to send Mjolnir forward at them. Create a dome with Lightning Realm that restores his Thor force based on the number of enemies within. Then enter his Awakened state with Awakening Rune. Thor floats, gets bonus health, and his basic strike enhances and becomes a projectile for the time being. Top it all off with God of Thunder. Deal damage to those caught in the circle, then slam down for even more damage. Our last Vanguard is Peni Parker. Her base attack is Cyberweb Cluster, which is essentially a burst blaster. The alt fire is a snare that webs and traps enemies or creates a zone that heals and gives Peni a movement boost. Place down a bionic spider nest to spawn spider drones, run up walls with her spider abilities, or gain further mobility with Cyber Bond to pull her forward. Next is Arachnomine, which explodes on contact but can't be hidden if they're in a cyber web. And lastly is Spider Sweeper. Zoom through enemies, launching them up on contact, and rapidly deploy mines, drones, and webs. Our first of many duelists is Frank Castle, the one and only Punisher. Scourge Grenade sends out a smoke that also launches him backwards. Light him up with Adjudication, his automatic rifle, or switch to Deliverance and get up close with a devastating shotgun. Use Vantage Connection to deploy a zipline, which stays placed after death for an easy return to the battle. Deploy the Coaling Turret to mow down enemies. Then Final Judgment, his ultimate, equips 2 Gatling guns that tear through the opposition while also sending out lock-on missiles. On to Storm. She can use weather control to swap between Tornado and Thunder. Tornado grants movement boosts, while Thunder grants damage boosts to allies in the circle. Launch Wind Blades as her basic attack for projectile damage, then use Bolt Rush for a fierce lightning strike. From there, unleash Goddess Boost. This depends on which weather setting you're currently on, granting Storm either a speed increase or a damaging lightning strike. Then set up with the ultimate Omega Hurricane. Choose an area to begin and turn into a moving hurricane that pulls enemies in and deals big damage. Clint Barton, the infamous Hawkeye, is our next duelist. Skyward Leap allows a double jump in the direction of movement. Switch between 2 arrows, Piercing as a powerful arrow that can be charged, and Blast as a powerful arrow that shoots out 3 explosives at once. Use Crescent Slash to knock enemies airborne with a katana, and fire a hypersonic arrow that grounds aerial enemies and can pierce through multiple players. Finish up with Hunter's Sight. After images of where enemies just were positioned appear for a brief moment. Attack them to deal damage, but it does not count headshot damage. Now to Thor's sister Hela. Night Sword Thorn is her basic projectile attack. Piercing Night is the alt fire that throws multiple at once. Escape from any situation with Astral Flock that turns her into a crow. And use Soul Drainer to create a sphere that stuns nearby enemies. Then launch her ultimate, Goddess of Death, as Hela takes to the sky, throwing explosive crows down below. Next is the Black Panther, King of Wakanda. Use his Spear Toss to throw a damaging Vibranium Spear. Get close enough to slice enemies with Vibranium Claws. Close gaps with Sprint Rend to lunge forward and attack, or Spinning Kick to spiral towards enemies with that attack. And his ultimate, Bast's Descent, summons the Ancient Tiger, pouncing forward for huge damage. Now, we'll take a look at Magik. Soul Sword is your basic melee attack, and it can be charged for more damage. Use Stepping Discs to teleport a short distance, and after emerging, trigger either Eldritch Whirl to spin the sword around, or Demon's Rage to summon a Limbo Demon to help attack enemies. Dash forward with Magic Slash to slice enemies, or Umbral Incursion to hit them and launch them in the air. Make all of this even more dangerous with her ultimate, Dark Child. She transforms into her demonic alter ego that enhances all abilities. Moon Knight is next. There's a lot to take in with this duelist. Perform a double jump with Rising Leap, use Moonlight Hook to grapple forward, and then Night Glider to safely glide into position. Throw Crescent Darts as his basic attack, which can bounce between enemies and onks that are placed. Dash forward with the Moonblade attack, hit Triple Eclipse for a melee combo, and fire Ancient Onks to place them on the map and knock enemies within its radius to the center. And then the Hand of Khonshu ultimate opens a portal that allows the Egyptian god to bombard enemies below. Now comes one of the simplest yet most effective duelists in Marvel Rivals, Squirrel Girl. Burst Acorn uses her slingshot to send bouncing acorns that deal direct damage and small area of effect damage. Tail Bounce sends her flying upwards with a strong bounce to evade attacks. Squirrel Blockade chucks an acorn that bounces around. If it contacts an enemy, squirrels emerge and imprison them. Use Mammal Bond and allow an ability to be used again without waiting for the cooldown. Then lastly, unleash the unbeatable Squirrel Tsunami. A horde of squirrels rush forward, damaging anyone caught in its path. A fan favorite Avenger, Black Widow, is here. Sprint forward with Fleet Foot and use Power Jump during. She has the Widow's Bite Baton for a basic melee attack and can use Edge Dancer to spin kick and launch enemies. Swap over to the Red Room Rifle for a ranged weapon and zoom in to turn on Sniper mode for a more damaging attack. Then finish them all off with Electro-Plasma Explosion. The ultimate sends out a chargeable blast that slows and damages. Iron Man takes center stage now. He remains airborne and can use hypervelocity to speed forward. Rockets can be fired during this with the Micro Missile Barrage. His main attack is Repulsor Blast. Alt fire for Unibeam to track close enemies with it. Enable Armor Overdrive to enhance his attacks, allowing the Missile Barrage to be unleashed from here as well. And close it out with the Invincible Pulse Cannon Ultimate. It deals huge damage to enemies caught in the blast, with damage fall off the further away they are from the center. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is next. He has a web swing and can climb and run on walls, as well as double jump. Spider Power is his punching attack, which deals extra damage to anyone with the Spider Tracer attack, done with the alt fire of Web Cluster. Amazing Combo delivers an uppercut that launches, and Get Over Here pulls enemies towards Spider-Man. If they have a Tracer on them, Spidey pulls himself towards them with a melee attack. And Spectacular Spin is his ultimate that launches a barrage of web clusters to stun and damage nearby enemies. Scarlet Witch can deal tons of damage, but she's very weak health-wise, so use Chaos Control as her basic attack, which is very similar to another certain witch from Overwatch. Alt fire for Scythonian Burst to consume chaos energy and fire magic missiles. Use Mystic Projection to float away, and hold the jump button for telekinesis to fall slowly. Throw out Dark Seal to create a small dome, and enemies caught within are periodically stunned as if time is stuttering around them. Then comes Reality Erasure, a massive ultimate attack, and unleash a wave of energy that destroys everything around. Up now is the Winter Soldier. Roderstern is his explosive pistol that damages the hit target and any enemies behind them. Launch the Bionic Hook to reel in an enemy and hit them with some punches. Tainted Voltage charges up an electrical punch that travels further the longer you charge it. It slows enemies if it hits. Trooper's Fist is a dash attack that knocks enemies, and Kraken Impact is the ultimate. Leap up, pick a target, and slam down to mark enemies. If their health is below a certain threshold, they're automatically eliminated, and that recharges the ultimate for another immediate use. The leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy is here as a duelist in Marvel Rivals. Star-Lord's basic attack are his dual element guns. Alt fire for Stellar Shift that does a flipping dodge in the direction you're moving and reloads his guns. Rocket propulsion lets him fly up and move faster. Use Blaster Barrage to fire a frenzy of shots that damages enemies up close and personal. Then let it rip with Galactic Legend. Enter a free flight mode with, essentially, an aimbot. Lock on and you won't miss a shot. Here is Namor the Submariner. He launches the Trident of Neptune for his basic projectile attack. Alt fire for Wrath of the Seven Seas to throw a more powerful trident at enemies. Activate Blessing of the Deep to fly upward in a protective water shield, and summon little squids that act as turrets with Aquatic Dominion. Then call upon Giganto with the Horn of Proteus ultimate. Psylocke arrives now with some devastating attacks. Psionic Crossbow sends out multiple bolts for the basic strike. Alt fire that for Winged Shurikens that delivers a volley that sticks to enemies. Psyblade is a dash that sends her forward to slice through enemies in her path, and Psychic Stealth grants invisibility and a movement boost that is disrupted upon attacking or when the timer ends. Her ultimate is Dance of the Butterfly. Place the attack and rapidly slice through enemies caught within the circle. Logan was one of the last launch characters revealed for Marvel Rivals. The Wolverine is here to give him the business. Savage Claw is his basic attack, which enhances into the Berserk Claw strike for a brief period after Feral Leap or full Berserker Rage. Go with Vicious Rampage to dash forward with a Claw strike, then Feral Leap can be used to simply move quicker from point to point, or to launch it at an enemy to take them with you and land a heavy hit when you reach the ground. Then go with Undying Animal to reduce incoming damage for a moment, and fully put them down with Last Stand, the ultimate ability. Leap upwards, taking enemies around with you, slamming them down to deal damage. On to another late addition just before launch, Iron Fist. Crane Leap allows for a triple jump, and Wall Runner lets him run horizontally on walls. Land some punches with the basic attack Jeet Kune Do. Dragon's defense blocks incoming attacks with bonus health after exiting the stance. Yat Ji Chung Quen is a dash attack that ends in a flurry of strikes. Kyun Lun Kick is another dash, with a flying kick that does extra damage to nearby enemies at its endpoint. Cross your legs and channel Chi with Harmony Recovery to get back some health, then unleash Living Chi to gain a ton of boosts, including extended range on attacks. Now we head to our strategist heroes of Marvel Rivals, compared to your healer and support roles of other games. Let's start with Loki, the God of Mischief. His basic attack is Mystical Missile. Hit enemies for damage or allies for healing. Use Deception to drop a decoy and become invisible. Use Devious Exchange to swap places with any Loki clone in your line of sight. Place these clones with a Doppelganger ability, and the illusion can also cast some attacks. Regeneration Domain places a Rune Stone to create a magical healing field that converts damage taken into health. And his title, God of Mischief, is also the name of his ultimate. Shapeshift into a targeted enemy or ally and have immediate access to their ultimate and use any of their abilities except team-ups. Which brings us right into Luna Snow. Light and Dark Ice is her basic attack, used to damage enemies and heal teammates. Use Share the Stage to attach Idle Aura to an ally. They'll receive health when Luna Snow heals other allies. Ice Arts is next, which makes her attack more powerful with larger ice shards. Damage or healing that lands also heals her. Alt Fire for Absolute Zero, which launches a clump of ice at enemies and freezes them. And finally, Fate of Both Worlds. We saw that a bit with Loki. This ultimate continuously heals allies or can be swapped to an area of damage boost. Our next strategist is a 2-for-1 with Cloak and Dagger. Start as Cloak with her Light Force Dagger basic attack. It too damages enemies and heals allies. Dagger Storm sends out a volley of daggers with a healing over time effect in the area. Veil of Light Force can be sent forward to grant a healing boost to allies it touches. Then use Shadow's Embrace to switch over to Cloak. His basic is Dark Force Cloak, which is almost exactly like Scarlet Witch's basic attack. His Dark Teleportation can conceal allies and give them a movement boost. Terror Cape throws a wall forward that blinds and makes enemies vulnerable for extra damage. Hit him with the ultimate of Eternal Bond to rapidly dash 3 times to heal allies or damage enemies in the path. And swap back to Dagger with Light's Embrace. Mantis is up next as a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Use her basic attack Life Energy Blast to damage enemies and gain a life orb. Use Healing Flower to consume life orbs and heal allies over time. Allied Inspiration delivers a damage boost to friendlies, while Natural Anger gives that damage boost to Mantis herself. Throw Spore Slumber to sedate an enemy, leaving them open to attack for a brief period. And the ultimate, known as Soul Resurgence, releases energy around her. Any allies in the area receive healing over time with bonus health added and a movement boost. Another Guardians of the Galaxy member is Rocket Racoon. Fire his Bombard mode to deal damage with his blaster. Alt Fire for Repair mode to deliver healing spheres to allies. Place down the Battle Rebirth beacon to drop armor packs and revive a fallen ally there. Uses Jetpack Dash to zoom forward, Wild Crawl to crawl up walls, and Flying Ace to slowly fall to the ground. Round it all out with the Cosmic Yarn Amplifier ultimate. Friendlies in range receive a huge damage boost. Let's keep up the Guardians trend here with Adam Warlock. His basic attack is a projectile known as Quantum Magik. Use Avatar Lifestream to heal any ally or himself if no ally is targeted. Soul Bond unites the souls of your allies, granting healing over time and splits any damage taken between them. Alt Fire for Cosmic Cluster, a more powerful projectile attack. His alt is Karmic Revival, which instantly revives any allies that are waiting for respawn in the area of effect. And our last launch hero in Marvel Rivals is the adorable Jeff, the Land Shark. He has Joyful Splash as his basic attack, which spits out healing water on allies. Alt Fire for Aqua Burst, which is how you can damage enemies. Place down healing bubbles that grant healing and movement boost to allies, but also launch up enemies that get too close. Use Hide and Seek to go underground, move quicker, and heal. Then snatch up both allies or enemies with the It's Jeff ultimate. Allies are healed over time, enemies receive chip damage, and you can spit them out to get them to safety or send your opponents flying off the map.